Developing musicianship online.
Hello, and welcome to DM Online. Today we're going to unpackage a couple of free online pieces of software that are to do with production of music. The first is a piece of software called Noteflight from noteflight.com, and the second one is Bandlab from bandlab.com. The first one is a notation software program, and the second one is a recording MIDI kind of combination, a lot like Garageband or Soundtrap. So let's kick it off with a notator. Those of you who have seen my earlier episodes on Sibelius and on Musescore would be familiar with some of the tests I put them through. So I'm basically looking at very straightforward writing and what the workflow is like, and whether or not the pace of the workflow is equivalent in the different pieces of software. So I'm going to go in and create today a very basic version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which actually is the same version I created in my earlier episodes. The first thing you'll notice about this particular notator is that the tools are a little bit hard to spot. It took me a while to find the conventional tools that I would normally use in Sibelius, which has the notepad, or in Musescore, which has the different palette systems. Once you get your head around that, it's okay in terms of carrying the skills you have from other notators across to here. There is a couple of small differences and a few hotkey differences which will affect workflow. So this is playing in the melody. I'm going to use musical typing. In this particular software, if you have not paid for premium, you do not get use of your MIDI keyboard. So you're stuck with either point and shoot, which I won't do today, or with typing it in using the note names. So I'm going to click on the quarter note in the duration part of the toolbar, and as you'll see, my note was higher than I wanted. So the hotkeys for changing octave are the same as Musescore or Sibelius. It is Command up arrow or Command down arrow. Now this part is where it is a little counterintuitive. For a longer note, you need to first of all create the note in the same value you've just been using. In other words, in this case I'm going to put a quarter note in, and then I'm going to change the value to a half note after I've played the note. The next note I want to be quarter note, well, I have to play the half note and then change the duration back to quarter note. That is a little bit annoying if you're used to other notators. Because normally you would actually put your note value in. See, I did it automatically. I went to change the note value before playing the note, but actually no, you don't do that in this program. So once you get over the complications of the duration and get into the flow, the workflow itself is not too bad. So the other test I put it through when I was using the other programs is to look at chords, or playing more than one note at a time. Now, I could not find a hotkey in this program for creating chords. In Sibelius, I would hit Shift 3 for the third below, or press the number 3 for the third above. In this program, that triggers sharps, flats, and naturals, the Shift 3, Shift 4, and Shift 2. So I could not find a hotkey to add chords, which meant that I had to use point and shoot method to actually create the other note. So you just kind of click on the score, and then once you're there, you may as well just point and shoot the whole chord, because there was no really straightforward way to just do it by keys. Same as I did in the other program, I'm a huge fan of copy and paste once you get a pattern that you know you're going to continue with. So in this case, the other nice thing is using the arrows to shift pitch. It stays in the key that you're in. So if you're moving, say, an E and a G, which is an interval of a minor third, up to an F and an A, which is a major third, it's not going to give you the A flat, the minor third. It's going to stay with the key that you're in. So in this case, an F and an A. That just makes it that you're going to always be sitting in your key that you started in, unless you specifically add accidentals. So I find that good. And then we have the finished product. Now if I put a time comparison on that compared to the other programs, probably similar. I'm a huge fan of hotkeys that add speed to your workflow, so I'm a little disappointed that I can't use the conventional hotkeys in some cases, and I'm also a little disappointed that they've shut down the MIDI keyboard unless you pay for it, and the cost of paying, I'm not sure. In terms of the publication side of things, it looks pretty good. Sharps and flats are easy enough. I have not really searched for things like transpose and stuff like that, so I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to be an easy process or a difficult process. The actual toolbar itself looks pretty simple and doesn't look like it has a lot of extra bits and pieces that you would find in something like Sibelius. It does triplets and things like that, but the menu system does not seem to show anything to do with like transposition and stuff like that. Now, I'm not digging around trying to find this, but to be quite honest, in this sort of software where this is a pretty standard thing to do, you should be able to find those sorts of things quite quickly. The other thing is instruments. I does not work as a hotkey for instruments, and there is no obvious instrument menu, which again does not make it hold very strongly against something like Musescore, where you've straight away got a very easily accessible palette and you're still not paying anything for the software. So in summary, Musescore is actually a better option from what you get for free. However, what you do have as an advantage in this particular platform is if you wanted to get multiple contributors, you can just simply share this document online to another user and they can contribute and write their own additions to your music. That would be a bit more fiddly in Musescore. Okay, let's move on to BandLab. Okay, for BandLab, I've sped up the process a little. I'm not going to walk you through creating. I will show you how this was created. It's just a simple demonstration of the various components that are available to us in this software coming together. So I'll just give you a quick listen. It was not designed to be flashy music or anything like that.
Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques.
So again, this is designed for online contributors to add to your project. This is more like a community of sound combinations. So you can have a band made up of people all over the world who do a recording straight onto this. However, that does come with some limitations. So first of all, MIDI operates exactly the same as any other MIDI I've come across. Your MIDI keyboard can plug straight in. You can open up the timeline or the piano roll version, and you can do things like quantize to all the same divisions that all the other programs quantize to, as long as you've got something selected. Okay, so there's nothing different there from Garageband or Soundtrap. In terms of the different instruments, you've got like a piano that you can key in using the keyboard. The weird thing about the keying in is that the keyboard breaks. The first register breaks at the full stop, and then you jump up to the Q W E R T Y in the keyboard. So it means that you're actually going like comma, then full stop, and then jumping to continue the scale up on a different part of the keyboard. So when I was using keyboard to play, it was a bit of a nightmare. It's a lot easier with a MIDI device. So in terms of the instruments you can choose from, there's under the instrument tab in the bottom left corner, you'll find an instrument list, and then you can just pull it up, and it's got pretty much all of the instruments you would find in any of the other programs. Okay, so that's the instruments. Now when I hit plus, I get the same type of menu system as I'd find in GarageBand or Soundtrap. That is adding MIDI, adding a drum machine, samples, which is actually a little bit different from the others. You can actually sample your own instrument and turn that into a MIDI instrument. Voice and audio, guitar, bass, those are the standard sort of things. You can import MIDI from a notator, so that's no problem. And so the drum machine is set to one measure of drums that you can then pull out as a loop by grabbing the corner, the same as you would in GarageBand or Soundtrap. Similar to Soundtrap, we have this issue of not being able to create two measures of drums. You're stuck with one measure of drums. So if you wanted something that was an alternating pattern between the first and second measure, you'd literally have to be copying, pasting A, B, A, B, A, B all the way through. I find that a little bit annoying. I would like to see that I could stretch out that drum line to be at least a two-measure drum line. The sound effects are the same as Soundtrap, and GarageBand obviously has Kyle. It's a much stronger drum machine style scenario, but this is okay for what it is. Remember, it's free. So when you record, the recording is pretty straightforward. You set up your input, you set up the channel you're coming in, and but this is a common problem in lots of software: latency. The latency in this was major enough that I had to slice the beginning of the waveform off and then pull the whole waveform back so it met beat 1. And that was even trickier with the voice, where it wasn't actually on beat 1 and it was a syncopated rhythm. I had to really play around with the placement of it. So both the bass and the voice had substantial latency. So that means if you've got an ensemble and you're trying to record using this software, and be on time, you're always going to have to come back and reconfigure the placement of the waveforms. You can turn the metronome on easy enough, but again, with the latency, it wasn't accurate to where the beat actually landed anyway. So this is something to be aware of, but it's online, and you cannot expect that you're not going to get latency when you're dealing with a program that sits on the internet. Okay. In comparison to Soundtrap, I think it is equal, if not better. The effects that are available to you actually are really good. Like, for example, over here on the voice, I was able to put on this Easy M octaver, and it got a whole bunch of different plugins, and huge. So I really am very impressed with the effects you can add. It comes with a pre-built-in auto pitch for those people who like auto pitch. So that's a real strength of this program, is the effects unit, and the bass has the same sort of effects if you want to add like bass effects. So I think it's a pretty good package, and I would be tempted to use this maybe more so than Soundtrap. And I love the contribution opportunities. And you can download the projects as well, so that's another bonus. Okay, that about wraps up today. I hope you found the reviews of these two online software packages useful. And please subscribe and stay in tune with what's coming up next. Till then, have a great day. Bye. Bye-bye. DM, developing musicianship online.